Hey college students, the future of our democracy urgently depends on us. You can help onAir student leaders curate trusted information on governance and elections and provide an online town square where we can all talk with politicians and each other to find common ground on issues and legislation on us.onair.cc. Our sponsors tonight are Democracy on Air, a nonpartisan nonprofit that supports the U.S. on-air network of 50 governance and election hubs, and GMU Students on Air, which oversees the GMU on-air chapter and the U.S. on-air network.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Frida Cervantes, and I'll be your host for today's Aircast. Our news Aircast will be focusing on the FIFA World Cup. And to start off our video, we have produced a short video on FIFA.
US On Air brings you News of the Week for Friday, December 2nd. First, we will be talking about global affairs.
As you well know, before a single minute was even played, the politics were part of this match. The protests back in Iran are now in their 10th week. The Iranian players in their very first match did not sing along to their national anthems. Games aren't being played in a vacuum, but are they usually this politically charged?
Not really. The minute the spotlight has been on Qatar as hosts, their human rights record, their attitude to LGBTQ plus people. So there was a spotlight already on the tournament, and then it was heightened when obviously the Iranian protests continued to really affect the team.
Football, or FIFA, gathered in Switzerland to announce which country would host the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. But even with all this political power in one room, the fate of their countries lay in the hands of these guys, the 22 FIFA officials with the power to pick the host. Many of these men have been accused of abusing their power, and this was the moment they took it a step too far.
2018 FIFA World Cup, ladies and gentlemen, will be organized in Russia. 22 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Rampant and deep-rooted corruption.
And
widespread corruption in the
racketeering and money laundering.
How did FIFA go from organizing one of the most beloved sporting events in the world to corrupting it? By the 80s, it had close to 170 members, mostly divided into 6 confederations with their own qualifying tournaments. And the organization kept getting richer. Take a look at how FIFA's profits grew steadily with almost every tournament until, boom, the 1980s. That's when World Cup sponsorships, merchandise, and TV rights became worth millions. All of this money was largely controlled by 24 officials, the leaders of each confederation, and some senior officials like the president. This group was called the Executive Committee, or EXCO. They had the power to distribute FIFA's money to its member countries for building football fields, holding tournaments, and establishing youth programs.
Very often this was done without any checks in place. Lots of money was siphoned off. A development money kickback became almost standard practice in certain parts of the world. There was a cabal of nakedly corrupt committee men within FIFA, and Mr. Blatter ignored their excesses because he relied on their support to keep himself in power.
It was in this culture of corruption that FIFA in 1964 decided to take the vote away from Congress and give it to EXCO, meaning that to host a World Cup, countries only needed to win the votes of a majority of EXCO. Just 13 of them. More and more countries desperate for World Cup prestige, FIFA found ways to play them off each other. The bidding countries spent millions of dollars on a 2-year gauntlet of PR events to impress FIFA, and tried to outdo each other by promising new stadiums, hotels, infrastructure, and lucrative TV offers. This became the well-known public-facing side of the bidding process.
That was the start.
When the 2006 vote came to a close, EXCO chose
Deutschland.
Thanks to one voter abstaining at the last moment. Journalists had later revealed that Germany had bribed at least 4 EXCO members for their votes, including the official who abstained. It was the first publicly reported incident that revealed FIFA had another layer to its bidding process that involved cutting deals with EXCO members under the table.
Next up are human rights.
Qatar won the rights to host the World Cup in 2010.
Today we celebrate, but tomorrow the work begins.
It had made an unbeatable promise to FIFA. It would spend more money than any host had ever done before, $200 billion. And it delivered. Since then, Qatar has built up 8 stadiums. It's built dozens of hotels and laid down miles of roads and metro lines to connect all that infrastructure. To power decades of development, Qatar has relied on a constant supply of temporary, low-paid workers, mainly from South Asia and East Africa. Typically, Qatari companies hire international recruitment agencies that find workers to send over. They promise these workers well-paying jobs in exchange for illegal recruitment fees up front. They also have the workers pay for medical tests, passports, flights, the visa, all to get the job contract.
Transnational cross-border operation which completely screws workers at the start of their journey. Workers often use their family savings to pay for a job in one of the richest countries per capita in the world.
They arrive in Qatar often to find they're not getting the job and salary promised and can't do anything about it because they've now entered the country's kafala system. It's a uniquely restrictive immigration system that can take different forms in different industries. But they all have one crucial thing in common. Kafala legally ties the immigrant's immigration status to their employer.
Finally, we will be talking about democracy.
This is a big moment in our country's history. It is the first time in 27 years that we have seen a successful sedition prosecution. And it has been 68 years since we have seen Americans convicted of sedition. The jury made clear today what happened on January 6th was a violent act against the United States of America, not, as the RNC once called it, legitimate political discourse. And those who were involved in orchestrating it, people like Stewart Rhodes, they have now been found guilty of one of the rarest charges our country levies. All of this tonight casts the defense of January 6 insurrectionists in a slightly different light.
Even calling it an insurrection, it wasn't. By and large, it was peaceful protest.
I thought everybody in the country bared some responsibility based upon what has been going on, the riots on the streets, the others.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below.
All of this tonight casts the defense.
All right, well, thank you so much, Gabriel and Devin, for joining us with our news aircast. So our topic is FIFA, and I just want to hear your thoughts on the World Cup so far. I know you two are soccer fans. So what are your thoughts? Gabriel, we'll start with you.
Well, from a sporting side, I would say this has been a really entertaining World Cup. Lots of narratives, lots of upsets, some really good games and drama. But I think from outside the non-sporting side, this is probably the most controversial World Cup at least in recent history, probably ever. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of things that have made people chuckle at the hosts, especially as well as the organization, FIFA. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion about I think now that we're almost a halfway point of the tournament, it's been a little less. Criticism has been more subdued, and we can expand on that after if Devin wants to add anything.
Yeah, Devin, especially I just want to kind of ask, where do you think the controversy stems from? Most of the controversy, would you say it's just some players or teams kind of trying to take some political stances on what is not supposed to be a political event, or do you think it's just kind of stemming from Qatar as the host and the human rights violations within that, or anything of that sort?
Yeah, I think most of the controversy stems from two things. The first being when Qatar was awarded the World Cup, obviously we found out that they didn't do it the right way. It was corrupt FIFA. There was bribery involved. And then the other part is obviously the question of the human rights violations taking place. There's been different numbers of different migrant workers that have been killed. I've heard like up to 6,000. And then I think just recently, a couple of days ago, the man who is in charge of building the infrastructure for the World Cup in Qatar admitted that there was between 400 and 500 deaths. So that's a big question up in the air. But yeah, I think the controversy stems from those two things mostly. And like Gabe said, there is a lot of narratives in the World Cup, like the U.S. facing Iran got political very quickly when the U.S. soccer posted the Iranian flag without the Islamic Republic symbol on it. And so, yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
Right. Yeah. I will say, though, that the soccer player, I believe he was maybe the captain for the U.S. team, he answered that very well, despite kind of, I guess, just trying to be, I don't know, I guess the reporter kind of was trying to provoke something or instate something, but the soccer player answered it pretty well.
Tyler Adams, yeah.
Yeah. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the last country to host was Russia.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously Russia being Russia as it is, there are probably most likely some human rights violations, maybe with the stadiums being constructed, or just Russia overall within its own Russian citizens, and just a lot of like less privilege of rights and stuff. But I don't remember, I mean, that was 4 years ago, but I don't really remember a lot of people being kind of wary of Russia as a whole.
No, I don't remember that either. I think obviously it might be slightly down to us being a bit younger at the time, but we weren't like that young. Like we were like teenagers. But I think definitely with Russia, I'd say there were a few factors involved. One, Russia's European. Two, pretty much all the stadiums had already been built. Unlike Brazil, actually. Brazil's World Cup stadiums some of them were not built, or some of them were built for the tournament. And then I also think with Russia, what else? Yeah, so like they didn't really have like the migrant worker issue. They also, like, being European, they have a more stable, they have a longer tradition of actually being a participant in soccer or football. I'm gonna say football. Like Qatar has like come from nothing. Like Qatar actually did win the Asian Cup, like the AFC Cup a few years ago, which was a bit of a surprise. But other than that, Qatar doesn't really have a tradition. So that's why people were like thinking it had to be corruption. And Devin pointed out, yeah, it turned out to be corruption. Yeah, but then I think Russia, especially now, I mean, like back when they hosted, it was like only a few years after they invaded Crimea. So I definitely do. I know there are some people who say like we should be criticizing Russia. We should have been, as much as we are criticizing Qatar. I think that's fair, but I'm always wary of moral equivalency. So there's that.
And Devin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Russia actually escaped a lot of the controversy because I don't know if you guys remember, in 2010 is when Qatar was awarded the 2022 World Cup, and it was the first World Cup drawing where they selected two countries to host it. So they selected Russia in 2018 and Qatar at the same time. And obviously that's when people started asking questions about what's going on in FIFA, because England had bid in 2018 and everybody suspected they were going to win. And then the US bid for 2022 and everybody suspected that they were going to win, and they didn't. And so the reason I think Russia escaped a lot of the criticism is because the investigation that the FBI conducted into FIFA didn't really come into a culmination until 2015, which was after the World Cup in Russia, which took place. Or no, I'm sorry. It was the World Cup in Russia was in 2018, but it had already been like Gabe said, it was in a European country, so it escaped a lot of the criticism through that. And the drawing had been 5 years prior. Qatar also has other things, soccer being more of a westernized sport. They're not selling alcohol at the stadiums, which a lot of Europeans have a problem with. So there's just more things in Qatar to criticize, I think, than there is in Russia.
Yeah, also them showing their true colors by banning like a lot of indecent clothing that purports to be sending a political message, not even like political message, it'd be just like a rainbow. And like I think there was a state in Brazil, like some Brazilian fans, they were like carrying the state of their flag and it had like some rainbow colors on it, and then police stopped them. Like they were like investigating them. So it's like we're revealing like Qatar's true colors. I mean everybody knew like this, but at the same time I think what does annoy me is how there have been some interviews of fans at the World Cup in Qatar, like usually like Western fans, and they're like all saying how like, oh, the media portrays Qatar unfairly. And I think that's a bit of a straw man because I think people are thinking that Western media is criticizing Qatar for being like a backwards Islamic barbaric nation, which doesn't really apply except for like the whole LGBT stuff. But otherwise, like I don't think like people are criticizing for that. They're criticizing them for like actual stuff they've done. And I think a lot of fans there, they don't really have the intelligence to understand that.
Because at the
To
same,
piggyback off, I'll go ahead, Frida.
I'll go after you.
I was just going to piggyback off that and say this is kind of Qatar's like coming out party, and they're putting their best foot forward to present themselves in a good light to bring on tourism and bring sporting events to the country. So I think a lot of people are overlooking that fact too.
Yeah, it's sports washing. That's what it is. The Qatar is like shiny and modern, but
Right.
a lot of people conveniently they've been duped into that.
Yeah. So one of my friends actually, so he had a great opportunity to go to Qatar and see, I think, like a few of the games last week. He just came back to see it with his family. And so there's like some things that I kind of learned that he told me. So it depends on like what package you buy that you can get alcoholic beverages versus like no alcoholic beverages on the stadium. So that's one thing that I learned and I wouldn't have known like through whether it be like through like social media or just reports. So I think his family bought like more of a or less, or I don't even know. There's like a standard packaging and there's one with, and there's, I don't know, I guess there's like tiers to it. So within his package that his family bought, they were okay to drink alcohol. So
At the stadium.
At the stadium, yeah.
Really? Never heard of that. So
Me neither.
And that's also like I was just kind of like, he was saying that, you know, there's not everything so bad with Qatar hosting it, like it's not as bad as the media's making it seem, which is when he kind of brought up the thing about Russia. I was like, oh yeah, that's true, I didn't really think about that, which would have been 4 years ago. But there's also this kind of question of, you know, respecting other people's cultures and stuff, which is kind of I guess sometimes like it can be used as an excuse, like just respecting cultures versus other things. Like, for example, like Gabriel, you brought up LGBT, you know, there's some things that you can't always excuse.
Yeah, I think I would say the alcohol ban is probably the least egregious of, because I'm someone who's more like more sympathetic to I'm not such a fan of mass intoxication of a crowd. So, but I do, it's definitely something that does annoy me because like it's just an unnecessary ban. But compared to like the LGBT rights, I'd say that's like immune from like using the culture argument.
Yeah, exactly. Especially at this day and age.
Yeah.
So because it is, you know, an international sporting event and all states from the international community come together, and I want to call soccer or football as the universal sport, but do you think that, I mean, sometimes it's just inevitable that there's going to be some political stances, but do you think that kind of goes against the true spirit of what FIFA and this whole unity of a sport is what it's supposed to be? Or do you think that sometimes it's good that teams take political stances or that those sort of things follow? What would your opinions be?
I think in a sporting event this large, it's pretty impossible to escape any political attachments to it. Being the most popular sport in the world, being in a different place every 4 years, and it's the biggest stage in the world. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. Maybe excluding the Olympics, you could argue that's bigger, but I think in either the Olympics or the World Cup, it's impossible to escape political attachments, regardless.
Yeah. Depends on like the nature. Uh, like with Germany, for example. All right, so a lot of European countries originally wanted to wear a rainbow armband to show like their support for LGBT. So I know like England wanted to do it, France wanted to do it. I think Denmark did as well. I don't know if Denmark followed through. I'm not sure if Germany did in their first game. Devin, if you know, you could tell me. But I know they did, like they covered their mouth for the lineup photo, but I'm not sure. I actually haven't done the research as to what exactly they're doing that for. Like I mean, I have like a guess. It's like pretty. I think I can like hit the ballpark where like what they're doing it for, but you know, like they've actually attracted a bit of criticism. Like there's like a Belgian player, Hazard, very well known. He was like, "Oh, maybe Germany shouldn't have done that. Otherwise, they would have won. They should have focused on this game." And like Hazard's been getting flack for that. Um, I think the Germans were right to do what they wanted to do. And then there are also things that are like not so much the team against FIFA or the host. It's also between teams. So like right now, Switzerland and Serbia are playing, and you normally wouldn't think they have a rivalry, but Switzerland has a lot of refugees from Kosovo are Albanians, and those people and Serbians do not like each other. And these two countries played each other in 2018. Switzerland won with one of their Albanian players, or Kosovan players, scoring the winner, Shaqiri, and he made the eagle sign, the Albania symbol, to like rile up Serbian fans, and Serbia did not like that. And now they're playing again, and there's some feistiness going on, and I think this is just definitely more of an internal squabble between the two countries. Well, between the players of the two countries. So I think it's also a place where like countries can maybe where the players themselves can voice their opinion on the world stage, showing the world like who they are, what they represent, what they believe in. So I think I actually like that, how that gives the opportunity. And then like with US and Iran, it gives like political rivals, a chance to play, which is cool.
And kind of one of my last questions for you two. Who are you guys rooting for the World Cup?
Of course, I'm rooting for the United States. I don't expect them to win it by any means. So beyond that, I am rooting for Messi to win a World Cup. I am a big Messi fan, and I hope he can get the job done before he retires.
Gabriel, what about yourself?
I'll get killed for this, but I consider myself for more of an England fan than a USA fan. So I'm supporting England also because they just have a way better chance of winning the World Cup. I think USA, I will jump on any opportunity, and if they like do something amazing. But England for me is the one I'm putting my like heart and soul into. Like they gotta win. Germany, I did not want them to win. They're out. That's good. Brazil, I do not want to win. And I'd say of like the other countries, I definitely wouldn't mind Argentina. I would love for Messi to win. I don't even mind if Portugal and Ronaldo have win because Portugal hasn't won one before. And I think they're definitely one of the strongest countries that haven't won it along with the Netherlands. So like yeah, I wouldn't mind. Most teams that are remaining, I don't mind for like Japan, South Korea, like Asians, like I would love for them to do well. But England's my main one.
Yeah, I would love for Brazil to win. Well, I think, or Argentina, or any.
Can't choose both. Can't choose both. They'll kill you for it.
Yeah, there's like a bandwagon hating on Argentina right now with like the rest of Latin American countries.
Yeah, is that they have like a reputation, right? Like it's just arrogant.
Arrogant, yeah. But I mean, I would like to see Messi win too, but any Latin country, I think. So
There are just two now, so
well, there's also Costa Rica, right? Or no?
they're out.
They're out?
No, yeah, they're out.
Yeah. Well, then that's
Uruguay just got out. So Uruguay is probably the one Latin American country I'd like don't mind the least, or don't mind the most. But the main ones I just don't want is Brazil because they won too much, and everyone loves them right now, and I like to destroy bandwagons.
Yeah.
England fan though.
Yeah, because my dad's an England fan. He grew up British Hong Kong, so
Okay.
and I'm a United fan, so the connection was there.
Well, do you two have any kind of like last thoughts on our Aircast that was focusing on FIFA? Or any last comments?
I'm excited for the rest of this World Cup, but also for 2026 because it'll be in the U.S. and I guess we'll see what controversy comes with that one.
It'll be U.S., Canada, and Mexico, I think.
Yeah.
I think that also, I think the next one will be the first one with 48 teams, which a lot of people are saying it will not turn out well because it reduces the drama of like having two teams from each group progress. And also just FIFA is not heading in good direction. Like Infantino, I think the president of FIFA is just not a likable man.
I agree.
There's people are speculating that Saudi Arabia might put up a bid for 2030, which is they're way worse than Qatar as a country. Like Qatar is like Saudi Arabia light. Like Qatar is not good, but they're way better than Saudis. And also having two Asian countries and with having them host 2 out of 3 World Cups, I don't think that's even in the rule book. Like that's not allowed. So there's gonna be like some corruption involved if that happens. That's my final thought.
Respectable. Well, thank you so much for you two for participating in our Aircast. This was a very fun one. It was a fun discourse.
Yeah, great.
All right, and that sums it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can learn more about the US On Air network by going to us.onair.cc and select one of the About posts. You can find a video recording of this Aircast in our US and Virginia On Air YouTube channels and in VA On Air posts.